Hey everybody, we're talking today with Joey Donovan Guido. He's a blogger, he's a copywriting expert, he is an SEO pro, and he's going to help us out with some tips. You can follow Joey at DaddyBrain11, that's the number 11. Joey, let's talk SEO, man.
Sure. You want some coffee?
So Joey, tell us, as far as PR pros that are writing blog content, that are writing press releases, what are some of the tips that they can implement to ensure that those vehicles are SEO friendly?
Okay, that's a great question. Let's go with the top three. First of which would be making sure that the headline is populated with at least one good keyword or keyword phrase, maybe two if they're short. And then the next step would be to put your keywords somewhere in the first paragraph, preferably in the first sentence if you could, somewhere in the middle of your press release or your blog post, and then right at the end. Those are three key areas that Google or any search engine is going to be looking to pick up on some of those keywords. And then the third would be to make sure you populate every image with a clear SEO-rich name, both in the name of the image, so if it's a JPEG, we don't want any 1285463.jpg. Let's name it. And then also you can use that same keyword or keyword phrase that you're naming your picture with in your alternate image tag. And that's for those people who aren't as savvy with coding. That's just a line of code that would go into the website or the press release.
Okay. Joey, what's one of the most commonly overlooked opportunities that people have to advance their digital SEO that they're not seeing, they're not thinking about?
Yeah, I would say their photography, the imagery that they're using on their site, their blog, their press releases. What happens is, I would say like 95% of the clients I work with do not have their photography or their imagery optimized. And we kind of just talked about that a little bit, but what's really great about optimizing that is it's easy, it's fast, and once you have your top list of keywords, all you have to do is punch them in.
Into the tags on, or the descriptions.
You would punch them into the
Caption,
to the JPEG, to the actual name of the photo, and then also into that alternate image tag.
What are people doing that they may think is helping with SEO that actually isn't?
There are a couple things that come to mind, and the first of which is when people set up a blog separate from their website. And the philosophy behind this is that they think, well, if I've got two websites or two impressions on the web, that's better. Double is better than one. It's actually the opposite effect. What happens is, if you have a blog that's doing really well, let's say you're doing 3 blog posts a week like you should, and you're getting some really good traction, your website is not getting any credit for any of those hits. And what winds up happening is you start competing with yourself for hits. Whereas if your website and your blog were all under one URL, that's actually feeding your website with fresh content, which Google loves, and also, of course, more SEO. So another thing that comes to mind, which I've seen less often, is when a customer will set up multiple websites and have the same content in there. And having multiple websites with the same content, first of all, you're going to get dinged, because if it's exactly identical content, that's what's called duplicate content. And if you don't mark those other websites as intentionally having Google see that as duplicate content, two things will happen. Either one, Google will decide, okay, here's the main website and the rest of these are copies, which is not as big a deal. Or it will start to ping maybe all of your websites as having duplicate copy, and then you'll start to lose traction. We want to have one website that's got all that traffic coming to it, giving that one website all the authority we can muster, so they show up as close as possible to number one.